And we'll start to go live on YouTube here in just a moment. Okay, all set, Ananda?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Special Board of Education meeting to order. First item on our agenda is the written registrations that we have received, and then I'll read them to you. So appreciate your patience as we go through. We received about 26 written statements for this meeting, and I'm going to read a summary. The full statements can be found on our agenda on board docs. I also wanted to share my gratitude for all the folks that engage with us in this way. So I'll begin the summary. One, in support of reinstating school resources officers, SROs, and greater cooperation coordination among school administrators, the police department, and parents. One, in support of additional social workers and behavior staff or reinstate the SROs. One, in support of adding more people at the high schools trained in student-centered interventions with no police officers. One, in support of expanded mental health services in the schools. One, in support of using the district's safety and security plan and efforts to engage in dialogue with all our community members during this difficult time. One, in support of reinstating SROs as part of an overall design to promote safety along with mediation, counseling, behavior modification, alternative programming, and other engagement strategies. One, in support of finding out what is happening in the lives of the kids and what they need to support and healing and support for the safety and security plan. One, in support of meeting the needs of the East High girls, demands for safety provides bonus to coaches and staff. Consider COVID testing for in-school volunteers when that happens again. Support community policing, review the current gender identity bathroom policy. Do not teach gender identity to students. One, in support of listening to students and one of their specific recommendations to install speed bumps on 4th Street. One, in support of more trained conflict de-escalation, stress management, and harm reduction, not police officers. One, in support of focusing on mental health and staffing, reinstating SROs, and using those who have experience to remain consistent with student behavior. Increase staffing in the areas of support staff, guidance, counselors, school psychology, and social workers. Reinstate SROs because social workers and psychologists are not helping. Support training families to be volunteer supervisors on school grounds. Changing the lunch period, additional staffing. Use systemic interventions and programming for parents, students, and staff. Reinstate SROs and use of metal detectors. An additional 8 statements were in support of reinstating SROs. Allow the community to help. Use a combination of SROs and additional support staff. Again, thank you so much for everyone that submitted the statements. This was a summary. The full statements submitted to us can be found on our website. Next, we're going to move to public appearances. Ali, are you ready to, would you like to take over?
No, Ananda, I just jumped on, so I'm getting the device set up. But if you want to go through the reading, and then Barb, if you want to take us through.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just gonna make the comment, Barb, that we ask everyone to be respectful to our students when referring to our students, using language that is humane, that shows the value that we have for our students, and any language that is deemed condescending or demeaning of their humanity and their dignity will be taken into consequences and be removed out of the virtual meeting. So with that, Barb, anything else?
No. We're ready to go. We have 9 speakers. Our first one is Anthony Cooper.
Hi, Anthony. Go ahead and when you get it, when you're ready to start your camera and turn your mic on.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Anthony Cooper. I'm CEO for Focus Interruption. Ananda, always a blessing to see you and everyone else that's on the call. So primarily, I think really I was just thinking about not only me talking more as someone who does violence intervention work, but then also as far as a father, also that who have had sons in the Madison School District, and trying to look at ways of being able to support, right? But then also, I think, but more than anything, I think there's really, I think this is all the way around for all the schools, making sure that we have parents as well as youth who can also speak into what is going on at the school district, and trying to look at different ways how we can probably partner, and also to be able to build positive support, and also being able to have outlets for when things do happen that don't necessarily involve police, except if it does have to go to that level where police have to be involved, but knowing that we took pretty much the proper measures to be able to de-escalate things before things get too far. And really being able to stand in the gap together and being able to work together as a community. So that was something where I just wanted to be able to just offer our services as Focus Interruption, but more than importantly, offer services and just trying to look at ways how we can work together. And I want to be a part of that process. Thank you, Ananda.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our next speaker is David Blaska.
Hi, David. Whenever you're ready, you can turn your camera on and your mic.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if I have my camera on, but if you can hear me, I can hear me, right?
Yes,
Thank you.
Well, I do think, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I do think that expelling the 4 high school resource police officers was a mistake. It was a very visible trophy in really your campaign to abolish discipline itself. And you've been doing that for the last 6 years. Under Jennifer Cheatham, the district decided to, I'm quoting here, embrace a restorative and progressive approach, one that aims to keep students in school no matter what, unquote. I think it's safe to say that that failed when 1/3 of the student body at East High School found it prudent to shelter at home rather than risk injury in the student fights and the police tear gassing that was required to quell them. The fact of the matter is, and I've looked at the statistics that MSD has reported to the Department of Public Instruction, and the behavior incidents haven't decreased, but they've gotten more serious. Where you had maybe 72 assaults in 2016, and that school year, you've got 863 in 2019. In that school year, the last school year that before COVID. The fact of the matter is, you're looking at equity, but according to data from the 2017 and 2018 school year, 59% of the disciplinary actions were taken against boys, even though they account for 49% of enrollment. So if I want to play the game, I could say, why is the Madison schools biased against boys? I think that you've taken off the guardrails here. People need to feel safe before they can learn. And I think the greatest victims of all are the children at greatest risk, who need to understand that you cannot succeed in life by continuing to fight. So I talk about discipline. What is discipline? It's crucial to success. Discipline is mastering a skill, finishing an assignment, peaceably resolving disputes. We should not be race shamed from teaching that precious skill to all of our children. I thank you for listening.
Thanks, Dave.
Our next speaker is Tina Hogel.
Hi, Tina.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to have our voices heard tonight. My name is Tina Hogel, and I live in the Madison Metropolitan School District. My youngest son is a graduate of Memorial High School. For 7 years, I was the statewide coordinator of the Wisconsin School Resource Officers Association. And I can tell you that there is no evidence that SROs make schools safer. There is no evidence that SROs are best qualified to deal with challenging behaviors, and there is no special training in adolescent brain development, adolescent behavior norms, or trauma-informed care for SROs. Neither the DPI nor the State Police Chiefs Association nor the State Sheriff's Association tracks or monitors SROs. I can tell you that when I was planning training for SROs, the trainings they requested focused on things like interrogation techniques, how to spot drugs, and legally conduct searches, rather than information about bullying and restorative practices. Schools should be a safe place, and for some kids, it is their only safe place. I know now that the reaction to place SROs in our schools is not based on evidence about safety, it's based on fear. When things like the recent events at East High happen, we should respond with the questions, what is happening in the lives of these kids and what do they need to be taught, instead of how can we punish them and shunt them into the school to prison pipeline? We need to ask, how can we make sure that they're safe? How can we help them to learn to develop socially and emotionally? The answers to these questions can lead to interventions from people whose frame of reference is not crime and punishment, but rather support and healing. I am not disparaging police officers, but they do view their job through a certain lens. That is not the lens that developing children need, and evidence shows us that that lens can actually cause harm to kids. For this reason, I was in full support of the district safety and security plan. This fall, we started the school year in an unprecedented time. We are still in the midst of a global pandemic that stopped us all in our tracks and has claimed the lives of 750,000 people. How did we possibly expect to return to a school year with business as normal when we don't even know what normal is anymore? But my distress is not about COVID, but about the response from some people in this community who are seemingly using recent events at East High School to blame and shame children and foment community fear.
Nobody is
I
blaming children.
strongly urge you to make your decisions based on evidence about what works best for kids and is best for kids. I urge you to stay the course with this.
Did we lose Tina, or was it the time?
We must have lost her. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Michael Johnson, and I think he's here.
Hi, Mike.
Hey guys, hey, let me first say my name is Michael Johnson and I'm Toya Johnson, so I apologize about that. That's my wife. Thank you for all the work that you all do to support our kids. And I just want to go on the record to say that I firmly believe that our schools need mental health officers, that our schools need counselors, parent outreach workers, and school resource officers to keep schools safe and to ensure that our kids are learning in a safe environment. In an ideal world, it would be great to not have school resource officers, but we don't live right now in an ideal world. I would prefer to have a team of law enforcement officials and professionals, including mental health specialists, counselors, parents, and other professionally trained staff working together on school safety and claimant plans, including involving local nonprofit organizations. In my opinion, it is dangerous to have police officers who don't have relationships with students responding to school-related incidents without having a group within the schools that can work with them prior to them entering into our buildings. I have learned that many of the major incidents that have happened in our schools are issues that arise from the community-related events that sometimes spill over into our schools. Our schools need intel and community-related navigators that can work with law enforcement officials and school personnel to mitigate these issues before they escalate in schools, especially in our middle and our high schools. Let me just say this. The minute that our community, and I hope this doesn't ever happen, experience a shooting at one of our schools, we will be pushing and begging to put police officers back in the schools. I know that there are disparities that exist, and there are disparities around disciplinary issues, and this should be monitored and it should be addressed. As a key MMSD stakeholder, our organization is your biggest programming and fundraising partner. And as you know, we raise about $2 million a year directly to support kids at MMSD and teachers in the classrooms. And we want to make sure that we support whatever plan that you all put forth. I meet with Dr. Jenkins every 2 weeks. We just started those meetings, and our organization is committed to working with you all to address whatever issues that the school district have. I hope our community can help the school district develop a comprehensive safety plan that is inclusive of all of the aforementioned points that I just named. And if there is a funding gap, that you all work with the community to ensure that we can help the district get the support that you need. Our schools are the bedrock of our community, and we can no longer and can't ignore or accept the behavior and the incidents that have transpired in the last couple of weeks. Thank you all for hearing me out.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next speaker is Sandra Brown.
Hi, Sandra, whenever you're ready. You can turn your mic and then your camera on. Sandra, I don't know if you're speaking, but we can't hear you. Could you please turn your mic on? Barb, do you want to go to the next?
Sure, one moment. Our next speaker is Sherry Galitzer, but I don't see her in the waiting room. I will go to the next speaker.
Sandra, you need to get into, click on the Zoom link.
That's
Oh,
what I clicked
Sandra.
on. Yes, can you hear me now?
Sandra, yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good,
Okay,
good.
Sandra.
I'm sorry about that. This is new to me. Okay. So good
No
evening,
problem.
everyone. I'm Sandra Brown, and I'm the Vice President of Moses. I am the co-chair of Moses Racial Justice for All Children Task Force, and I am a retired Madison Metropolitan School District teacher, having served the district for 37 years. The well-being and success of our children is my primary passion. Tonight, I am here speaking to you on behalf of Moses. Moses is a grassroots, interfaith, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working for transformative justice in Dane County and Wisconsin. We are part of a statewide and national network of organizations committed to social justice. Our mission is to build collective power to dismantle the systems of mass incarceration and mass supervision, and to eradicate the racial disparities our community has worked for and has used that contributes to the mass incarceration and mass supervision. The purpose of the task force that I co-chair with Barbie Jackson, and Barbara Benson, who are also present tonight, is to eradicate the childhood to school to prison pipeline through reducing the generational deprivation experienced by children of color and children in poverty due to systemic racism. In March of this year, Moses unanimously adopted a statement that officially supports the full set of recommendations that had been accepted by the Board of Education on February the 15th, 2021. The topics and actions included in the package are consistent with Moses's positions on restorative justice, racial justice for all children, and public safety practices. Tonight, as we hear about the significant safety and security challenges at East High School, I reaffirm Moses' commitment to support the district's safety and security plan under the leadership of Dr. Jenkins. We know our children have suffered increased severe trauma as a result of their isolation during the pandemic. We know the schools have done their utmost during these extraordinary times to support our students throughout this period. We also know that online bullying throughout social media has been an increased problem during this time. It should come as no surprise to the community that this period of extreme trauma has resulted in additional trials for the children and the schools as they have returned in-person classes. We stand by the administration, teachers, and staff as they help our beloved students return to a peaceful and safe school environment. We support restoration of our school community using the mechanisms established by the district's safety and security plan. We support the efforts to productively engage in dialogue with all our community members during this difficult time. Thank you for this opportunity to share Moses' perspective tonight.
Thank you so much, Sandra.
Our next speaker is Travis Dobson.
Hello, Travis. Whenever you are ready, you can turn your camera on and your mic. Travis, not sure if you can hear us or if you
He's
were
disconnecting.
speaking.
Yep, he's disconnecting.
Okay.
He's here. Okay, Travis, you are, whenever you're ready, you can turn on your camera and your mic. We're ready for your statement. Thank you.
It looks like, Travis, it's connecting, but it's taking a little longer. Yeah. Barb, do you want to move to the next one and then,
Sure.
oh, there you go. Yeah, looks like Travis is good.
Okay.
You want to turn your mic on, Travis, and see if it works now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks for your patience.
Sorry about that. All right. First off, I just want to, I have two students at East, ninth grader and 11th grader. And yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So first off, I like to say that I have two students at East, a 9th and 11th grader. I'm also assistant football coach for the varsity at East High School, and also alumni from East High School. So I'm well versed in East High School. As being there every day, through from August all the way through till about a couple weeks ago, we're there every day, literally every day, dealing with students and seeing what's happening at the school, talking with students from all different backgrounds. The school needs help. I mean, we need security. It's this, the students, to say that all students of color, students, you know, the 4.0 students all the way down to the kids who are struggling, who have their own problems. As a matter of fact, they're all begging for help. The school is out of control, and it comes down to, we need like all hands on deck, basically, all levels of support for security there, because the kids are scared to death that something's going to happen. We have adults coming down and fighting at school at lunch. I mean, adults coming down and fighting with the kids, you know, joining in the fights. I mean, we had one, you know, a couple of students in our football team had a gun pulled on them when they went to Emilio's. I mean, this is insanity. I mean, I never thought this would ever happen in Madison schools. So, I mean, these kids are scared to death. So when 600 students don't show up to school because they're scared, it should be a shot across our bow that, my kids are scared, and I got another one coming up through middle school right now. And I mean, if we don't fix this, I don't know if I'm going to send them to a Madison school. I mean, how could I? He has IEP, and he has lots of problems. So if you guys don't fix this, I mean, we need everybody, same, as Anthony Cooper. I greatly appreciate everything he does. I've known him from back in the day. We have to have some type of sensibility that we don't want to kick these kids to the curb, but at the same time, there has to be consequences for our actions. I was a trouble student when I was in the Madison School District, and people helped me out, but at the same time, I was held accountable for my actions. I mean, if there's no accountability, it's a done deal. If anybody has kids, if you tell your kid, I'm gonna take away your Nintendo, and you don't take it away when they do the action, next time you say it, they're gonna whatever. I mean, that's what motivates kids to. There has to be some type of consequences for their actions. So either in school suspension or whatever. I mean, there's multiple layers, but at the end of the day, if students aren't performing the actions and staying safe and making it a safe community for everybody, if we don't address that, or put them into an alternative, learning format and keep the other kids safe, we're not doing a justice to the 1,700 other kids that are in the school just going when they're trying to learn. So thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Travis.
Our next speaker is Barbie Jackson.
Hi, Barb.
Good evening. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I am Barbie Jackson, co-chair of Moses Racial Justice for All Children Task Force, a practicing peacemaker in Dane County's Community Restorative Court, and a 25-year youth mentor in the Allied Drive and Elver Park communities. Oops, excuse me, just lost my spot. In partnership with my friend and colleague, Mrs. Sandra Brown, I am speaking to you on behalf of Moses. In April, I spoke to this board in support of the broad set of 16 components of your safety and security plan and Dr. Jenkins' expansion to include 4 FTE restorative justice coaches. I indicated and reaffirmed that we are also highly supportive of expanded mental health services in the schools. We advocated for additional funding, especially for mental health services in the schools, at Joint Finance Committee hearings. Unfortunately, as you well know, much was cut by the state legislature. Moses has fought long and hard with some success for reforms in our carceral system. As we've expanded our target area to include preventative measures with a particular emphasis to stop the school to prison pipeline, we urge the board and this community to continue to focus on ways to help our youth find positive solutions in conflict situations rather than punitive approaches. My long-term personal experience with youth experiencing challenges in our community has taught me how difficult their lives are at home, at school, and in the community. I've been deeply engaged with children who have suffered abuse and neglect at home, amongst their peers, on their way to school, at school, and on their way home. I have witnessed direct stories of some flaming out on social media and endangering the lives of those they accused. I've witnessed others' stories of bullying by both adults and children as their sexual orientations have been emerging during puberty and their reactive fighting that resulted in police calls followed by restorative justice resolution. I've seen some of them buckle under the weight of their trauma in early adulthood. I've seen others respond to the incredibly loving support received through school counselors and programs, successfully enrolled in post-secondary schools and hoping to serve youth upon obtaining their degrees. As a community, we must help our children find their way. We must help them thrive. Although Moses has not yet fully learned all the pros and cons of SROs, and as a result, we have a wide-ranging set of personal opinions, we are united in calling to stop the school to prison pipeline and in calling for supports to help our children thrive. Some believe that the children are intimidated by armed police in the schools. Others believe that the children and police can befriend each other and through these relationships find a way to reduce the violence. What we know for certain is that supporting our unarmed, trained social work, psychologists, and restorative justice practitioners is certain to help. This approach has a proven track record of success. We need more support in this area. We do not need a soundbite solution that does not reflect careful understanding of situations and the measures that have already been undertaken by the school district. I want to thank you personally, President Muldrow, for your leadership to listen to the whole community and for the whole school board. And we hope to join you. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you so much, Barbie.
Our next speaker is Blair Feltham.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Blair. Hi, I'm an MTA member. I work at West. I'm in Madison, taxpayer. I speak just for myself. Reminding everybody, including people who already know, but anybody who's listening who is in my community broadly, that safety is way more than fewer fistfights. Way, way, way more. Psychological safety also super duper matters. We can't have safe schools if we have throwaway people, if we see some students as disposable or removable or not part of our community. I don't believe that we can have safe schools if we rely on the threat of force or the threat of violence. And I want to see more options and more opportunities for our youth, not more threat of violence or more threat of coercion from adults in their schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair.
Our next speaker is, I'm sorry, I gotta get this name right. Sherry Glitzer. She's just coming in now. Sherry, when you're ready, just turn on your mic and your video. We're ready for your statement. Thank you.
Barb, I don't see that person on our.
Yep, she's on the
roster.
bottom.
Okay.
Sherry, the very last one. Sherry, are you able to speak?
It doesn't look like she's connected to the audio.
Okay.
Do you want to go to the next one and see what happens if they're
Okay.
able to connect? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Noelle.
Hi, Noel. Whenever you're ready to turn your camera and mic on. Noel, can you hear us? I don't see them either.
Okay, I'll try the next speaker, Monica Howard.
They look like they're both connected now.
Yeah.
They're both connected, Barb.
So when you say the both, who? Noel, I see it's connect. Noel, are you able to turn your mic on? Hi, Noel.
I got it. Sorry. Let me
No
mute
problem.
you quick on
Thanks.
the computer. I got multitasking here. Okay. So I am Noelle Brusky, and I have been one of the moms. And sorry, I'm just, I had the wrong link here, so I came back. So I missed a little bit of what's going on. Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
well,
Go ahead.
That's easy.
we can
Okay, I was
hear
just
you.
making sure
We ha-
everybody could hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. You have about 3 minutes for your public statement.
So I am Noelle Brusky, and I am one of the moms, and we have came together as a group and trying to make a change, be there for these children, be a trusting adult. I believe that they are much more trusting to come to parents than they are, for example, police officers or higher officials. We have relationships with these kids that we have built over many years. I'm a sports mom. There are many of these mothers in this group, and it is by far making a difference in just the 1 week that we have been trying this out and going in full force. And I'm told to say what moms means. So moms is moms on a mission. We are welcoming dads. It's just what we came up with at the moment. And we're working very closely with the community. And I just believe that they haven't given any time while they're discussing the SROs back in the school. It hasn't even been a year. And just, I believe that it starts with adults leading the way and leading by example. And these kids that are the violence or maybe that are angry, they have been traumatized in some portion of their life, or maybe not heard enough or been able to alleviate that hurt and pain. And I just feel like watch what we can do if we be a mentor to these kids and watch how they can flourish. And I don't believe that we've even given them a chance to, make that change. There's a lot of things in the making, and we're just getting started. And I believe with the community that has already reached out and all the parents that have hundreds of parents that have reached out, that we can make a difference. Today was amazing. I mean, there were so many smiles walking up and down the street at lunch. That's what I seen. And I'm not saying it wasn't scary with the violent issues that were going on. There was a day that my kid didn't go to school as well. But we all want our kids to have a safe environment. We all want to feel safe sending our kids to school, as well as them feeling safe in school. And so I think just coming together as a community is a great force. And we're just getting started, and we have so much work happening in the background that hasn't even been discussed amongst a lot of people yet. And I just can't wait till we get more organized so we can just kind of bring it in and do what we do. But I just wanted to chime in. I was asked to chime in really quick. We're not extremely organized yet, but we're the moms out there. And there's 10 to 15 parents out there a day. We have some parents in cars. We have some walking up and down. I'm the one engaging the snacks. And I do believe food is an easy way to, feeding their bellies is an easy way to get into their hearts. And starting that conversation, and they're getting familiar with our faces, and I think they're starting to like seeing us out there. And that's all I really have to say right now.
You
Thank
got
you.
a double thanks, Noelle. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Monica Howard.
Hi, Monica. Whenever you can, turn your camera on and your audio. Monica, we're ready for you whenever you are.
Okay, can we try Sherry one more time? Sherry, are you able to turn on your audio and video? Okay, I'm gonna try Carmela Glenn.
Carmela, are you able to hear us? We're ready for you.
Can we try Sherry one more time? Sherry,
I'm
are you
here.
able to turn on your audio and video?
Carmela is ready, Barb.
Hey Carmela, if you have YouTube on in the background, we're gonna get an echo.
Okay, let
Are
me
you
shut
okay?
YouTube off. I got it.
I'm gonna, thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, all set. Thank you. You can begin.
Yes, we can hear you,
Are you
Carmela.
able to hear us? Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so I would like to just echo what Noelle Brusky said. I am also sitting in the background as one of the moms. My name is Carmela Glenn. I am coming as a welcomed, loved, concerned parent in the conversation I'm hearing around jumping to already putting SROs in. I have about 20 years in working in the criminal justice field for Justine, formerly known as Madison Area Urban Ministry. And I believe in the power of the people rather than in systems designing things that could cause harm that is just misunderstood. We as parents go into this with the idea of restoring our children's voice, restoring our community, restoring the beliefs in that organization and organizing is the way to be able to move forward with things. We have a Facebook group that we started with about 10 of us in the beginning, and there's over 100 of us just waiting on us. The next step is all we have to do is start organizing them. They're waiting to be able to go into the school at lunch, sign volunteer forms to go into the schools for mentoring and tutoring and different positions in the area. We've been working close with David Hart, Pastor Hart, and we on the east side, when we're called to rally up, that's what we do. We've done it since I was at East High School for 30 years ago, not to date myself. That's what you do. We organize. That's our side of town. This is our side of town, and we know how to take care of it. We know what's best for it. We know how to get stuff done, and we're getting it done. And moms and parents and community organizers are all ready to support us. We've had 2 weeks, and we've already got over 100 and some parents ready and willing to be able to step up, take care of this school, take care of our children, give them a voice. We don't need the system stepping back in right now. What we need is the system to allow us to do what we do and support us in what we're doing. Police do not prevent. Police come after the fact. We know we need prevention services, peer services. Right now, my job is the peer coordinator for Department of Health Services. We're in talks of having a youth peer training. We are willing and able and connected and educated in how to do this. We want our time and our space to allow that to happen and not have people jump in who do not understand what our children have been through for the last year in their homes behind a computer, not allowed to do sports and activities or any of those things. So all I'm asking is for time and space, like everybody else needs, to be able to shake it off, get some things in place, and allow us to handle this. Thank you.
Thanks, Carmela.
Next speaker is SG.
Hi, I'm Sherry Gallitzer. Thanks everyone for your patience.
I'm sorry, your audio is
Yes.
really slow. It's not keeping up with you.
Okay. Give it a second, it'll catch up. Is this better?
Sorry.
No.
But you can try shutting off your
Oh,
video.
well,
Let's just try your audio.
Oh, sure. Good idea. All right. Is this better?
Ugh, audio's really.
No.
No, I'm sorry.
I wonder if this doesn't work, I wrote a letter to you guys and to the superintendent and principal last Wednesday, the 11th. If someone could read that letter, maybe, in replace of my comments.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Barb,
there's
were
another
you
way
able
to submit your comments, and you can send them to board@Madison.
Well, I'd like that when since I missed Thomas Schmidt, I would like it to be read here. Because, or can I call in a number to talk? Or?
Probably not quickly. What I'm asking is if you could maybe call me on offline, and I will help you sign up for the next meeting. Is that a possibility?
Well, this is urgent. This is about East High safety.
So yes, I would ask you to then try to log off and log back in with your phone, and we will try to take it up that way.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
So I mean, I call on the phone number that came on the email. Is that right?
So you use your phone to get into the Zoom link that you already used.
Okay, I'll try that.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll be right back. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Did you want to try Monica one more time? Monica is still in the meeting.
Monica, are you able to hear us? We are ready for you if you wanted to turn your mic and camera on.
Barb, I've been in touch with Monica, and she said that when she tries to come on, she gets a message that says you cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
Oh. Okay, I think it's fixed now.
Monica, do you want to try again? Turning your mic on. Can you try to unmute her?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have tried everything I think that I can do remotely.
Is she the last one?
I would try Sherry one last time, and I still see her in the meeting as well. So let's see. Hi, Sherry. Okay. Yes, I believe that, well, our Sherry is in the waiting room. I'm gonna try to let her join again. One moment.
Okay, thank you, Barb.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes,
thank
Monica,
you.
we can.
I think it's Monica. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, very
Yes,
good.
Monica.
I don't know if we'll get the video, but I don't want to overstep because I think someone else was supposed to speak too.
No, it's your turn. Please take your time. You have 3 minutes, and we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad and thank you for you guys' help. So I just would like to address, we have a lot of people that are really rooting right now to help, not just East High School, but in general, what's going on with youth. My experience working with youth, and not only just working with youth, but being a mother of youth, also mentoring severely highly level juvenile delinquents that are not delinquents, they're just kids that don't have love. On the west side of Madison, Raymond Road area, we have car thefts, we have a lot of violence, we have a lot of anger, we have a lot of lack of love. I know that there is a debate whether or not we have police back in the schools or we do not. And everybody has their own opinions. And I understand that. As a mother living right across from West District, working with West District, seeing what my daughter has had to experience being Lamar Howard and what she's had to experience as well, just living on the west side of Madison, going to Toki Middle School. The things that have come about in our community, we need a collective effort. It's not going to just take the police. It's not just going to take the social workers. It's not just going to take the Boys and Girls Club. It's not going to just take all of these organizations individually. We collectively now have to team up. And this is getting to a severity level that I feel is really important that we address. And I think that we go back to the drawing board. We take old school methods. If we look at East High School, Mr. McPike is on that building. I loved him as a principal. I know what his leadership was like to be a student, for him to be both of my parents' bosses, my stepfather and my mother. I saw how he was able to run that school. He ran with love, but he also ran with sternness and he ran with wisdom. I think we need to get more parents back in the schools. I think we need to get more volunteers back in the schools. To Noelle's point, she actually went to college with me. I got to study a few times in college with her as well. So to her point as a parent, having kids on that side of town as well. I also have my daughter going into Memorial next year. And I feel like collectively as a community, we need to team up, and it's no longer the school board makes decisions. It's no longer, different entities in the community, nonprofit make the decision. We collectively come together because our youth are our future. And if we don't make a change, what happened at East High School and the threats that East High School are facing, Memorial's facing a lot of things. I have a kid right now that has to be escorted to and from his classes because there's violent threats because he told the police the truth, and he's a Black youth on the west side going to Memorial, and one of the youth I've mentored, and he fears for his life. And now he's getting D's and F's his senior year because he's terrified of how bad they're going to beat him because he told the truth in a situation where him and his foster brother were robbed. So with that being said, I might be up against 3 minutes. There's more conversations that need to be had. And I feel like we all collectively need to come together. I'm concerned, and my daughter's not at East. I'm concerned because my daughter is a daughter. I don't want to see assaults. I don't want to see any of this. And I know everybody is on this call because they care. And I think that needs to be our paramount focus. And we need to figure out how to do it and do it really, really quickly, because these kids have been in isolation. There's mental health issues. These kids don't even know they have mental health issues. All of this needs to be addressed, and they still need to prosper and have bright futures.
Thank you
so much.
one more time for Sherry, and she will be our last speaker. Sherry Glitzer.
And you tried to ask her to unmute and turn camera?
Sure did. Yes, I did.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Is this Sherry?
Hi.
Yay. Okay.
I don't know if I can do a camera on my phone,
No,
but
it's no problem. Go ahead.
okay, super. Thank you. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to speak here and the perseverance to make it work, and also for the work that you do. I'm here as a parent of a East High senior, and I also have 2 other children that have graduated from East High in the last 5 years. I'm here because I want to help make her and all the other students in the school have a year of learning. And as you know better than me, it's well established that feeling safe is a requirement to learn. I'm also here as a member of the community, and I want to support our public schools. I want to be able to recommend East and MMSD to neighbors, to people I talk with. And there are a lot of young kids in the neighborhood where I live, and parents are asking a lot of questions. And I want to be able to support East and MMSD. Right now, I can't. I wrote you guys a letter last Wednesday, and thank you, Ms. Gomez-Schmidt, for your reply. I also want to thank Principal Smith for her providing the clear information about how to attend this meeting today. What I'd like to do in my time here is review some of the main points in my letter. And I'm asking that and hoping that your discussion tonight will address my concerns. If anything I have in this letter is incorrect or a wrong assumption, I hope that it'll be corrected. And I also want to ask the press that are listening to help keep people informed on this and to help keep people accountable. So in my letter, I started with, again, it probably doesn't need to be restated, but I want to. This situation is untenable, and it must be addressed now. and in a manner that serves the kids that are ready to learn now, along with a lot of the long-term work that needs to be done. I also want you to know that the violent fighting is already normalized. Last Wednesday, when I wrote this letter, my daughter was leaving for school and she's like, "Bye, Mom, I'm a little nervous." And I asked if she was nervous because of the fighting. And she just turned around and looked at me. She's like, "No, Mom, it's the shootings I'm nervous about. Fighting is normal." So in my letter, I asked you to require, you as a board, to require publicly available a East High response plan. And in that plan, I'm asking that 1, interventions are included that address the root causes of the fights that have occurred this year, and that there is accountability by the board to ensure that these root causes have been accurately identified. And from there, the appropriate community groups can be drawn in to focus on those interventions. The second thing I'm asking for is increasing the security personnel that are trained and dedicated to immediate response and de-escalation. And my understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected, but my understanding is that when the new plan was put in place last February, that the responsibilities for immediate response and de-escalation were added to existing staff roles. And the other thing I understand is that the new restorative justice positions that were created, that their job descriptions either do not exclude or do not include, or that they explicitly state that these restorative justice positions do not have responsibilities for immediate response. Clearly, whatever is set up in the schools for immediate response is not working. The third thing I ask for is to identify where the East High School behavior and safety plan failed and the actions to remediate the failures. And here, quality and transparency is required, and this plan needs to be timely and actionable. Then finally, this idea came from a retired inner city Milwaukee principal who suggested for his school he installed delayed action fire alarm system. This was in the 1980s, so I'm not sure, but I did doing a look. It looks like there's still protocols that can be established so that a student can't just pull an alarm and control the entire school population and bring them out into the, bring them outside the school. And as we know, what happened on Monday, the fights, as was very clearly articulated earlier in the comments, the fights were there, parents were involved, came and joined the fight. It feels planned. And it doesn't feel like this was the first time that this type of thing was planned. So I ask you to take this seriously, immediately. We need action. Thank you.
Who's our final speaker, Ananda?
Thank you so much, Barb, for all the work. And thank you everyone for joining us on Zoom, and really apologize for all the technical difficulties. With that, I'll turn it to our board president, Ali Modro.
Thank you so much, Ananda, for supporting us through public comment. I want to thank everybody who spoke. I want to start this evening's conversation by thanking everyone who spoke tonight and recognizing the tremendous outpouring of support we've seen from our community over the last week. It has been overwhelmingly inspiring to see so many people show up for our kids and care about our kids so deeply and be so solution-oriented in the interests of our children. None of us could have possibly been prepared for what it meant to close schools back in March of 2020. However, now we must navigate the long-term effects of this pandemic, prioritizing the mental health of our students and staff. This is an ongoing conversation. Over the last few weeks, our community has come forward with an outpouring of support for our students, teachers, and schools. It is our desire as a board to work with our community tonight as we touch on a few aspects of safety. And with that, I want to turn it over to Dr. Jenkins. Tonight, we will talk very specifically about the formation of a board ad hoc, safety plans more generally, and the recent ability for our students ages 5 to 11 to be vaccinated as they've become eligible for vaccination. So thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for your leadership and all the work you've done over the last week to, be available to our community and to work towards safer and safer schools. I'm very, very grateful that we get to have you as our leader at this time.
Thank you so much, Chair Moldrew. And let me say, I wish I could say it was just over the last week, but we've actually been working together since the beginning of the year and even during the virtual in anticipation of students coming back to school and knowing that they will be impacted by the dual pandemic from a social, emotional, mental health standpoint. But we've still always had at our forefront how we were going to increase our learning environments for our students, but also making sure that safety is paramount. I just cannot thank the individuals who came and spoke tonight or the individuals who've been responding so passionately since we've actually started schools, but really with the whole student demonstration protest, which started over sexual violence, in which we are working together with the students right now in the schools, the staff, Ms. Smith coming on as the new principal, interim principal at East High. We're working closely with the staff. And what we want to do is continue to work with the students, work with the staff. But this issue here, more germane to what just happened this past week. And in doing that, responding to that particular situation, we know that we have a crisis plan in place for culture and climate as we're monitoring things in all schools. And I really do appreciate the fact that several of the parents went beyond East because we know this is an MMSD and this is a Madison community issue. It takes all hands on deck to think through how do we begin to take up the position of stopping some of these historical things that have occurred in our community around learning and around safety. And I have to say, I'm very appreciative of the way that we do in Madison. Madison steps up and they come together when we have a crisis. We don't run away from it. But I think the whole idea in terms of trying to deal with our environment, which we know on a national level, a lot of us have been impacted by just the trauma of the pandemics. And you don't address trauma with inducing more trauma. And we know that when you have situations like this, physical fight that took place, there are things deeper. And I think one parent alluded to that. There's something deeper that we're trying to address. And I love the fact that the one community person, the staff person from MTI also said, how do we address things and not throw away individuals who are in our community? We as a district have taken on the position of restorative justice, and we really want to be serious about that. And that means that we have to address that collectively. We can't address it individually. No, it's not just a teacher, and the teachers can step up and do a lot of work, but they're in pain too right now. They're experiencing the dual pandemics. We have to make sure we put the appropriate resources, and we're doing that. We pushed in to East High. The chief of secondary schools has been assigned to East since the beginning of this situation, but also doing an analysis of the whole district, because in all of our schools, I think we're trying to be conscientious about what's going on with students as I speak on a regional level, state, and national level with superintendents. We all realize that there is an uptick of choices that individuals are making, but how do we address this in a way that we don't cause more harm? So coming back through this at East, not only are we trying to get the voices of our students, but we're trying to get the voices of our staff. And let me say this to everybody, not just East staff, but staff everywhere. I was watching the news the other night, they call this the resignation, post-stick resignation generation. Staff are hurting in a lot of ways, and we're trying to step in and trying to hear them. We're coming back in the middle of this dual pandemic, and at not only East, but throughout the district, we're having to recognize, are we pushing even too much on staff? Because if you push too much on the staff, then it goes down to their lack of time to be able to address students. And then if students are not being addressed, that whole decision-making process, a lack of attention, no relationship shows up in other ways. So as a district, we are continuing to not only work locally, but work, with our peers in the region and the state, and we're looking at ways we can appropriately respond. We are too in East. Let me just speak directly about that incident that took place after school. We all know that was unacceptable. But it was a residual of something deeper. So we went out and did home visits. And I think Ms. Smith stepping up like a champion and did a home visit with the parent and just trying to get to the root cause, because we could deal with the symptoms, but if we don't get to the real issues, then we're going to see a repeat of this. And it's time. And I think COVID has positioned us to say, how can we do schools differently? Because were there issues before COVID? Yes, there were. There have been issues in schools for a while. We've been seeing this. Our response, and I think the collective effort of the district, of the community, to move towards restorative justice in ways that we could meaningfully begin to repair some of the harm that's been done historically, I do believe that's the move. As superintendent, I do not believe that resource officers in isolation in schools are going to make the difference. I think we have to change mindsets in our community. We have to work together. We cannot count anyone out. I think all the perspectives presented here tonight are valid, and I look forward to the task force that Chair Motro that we've talked about, that we want to engage with our students, engage with our parents, engage with our community in trying to find a way forward. So that's going to be a part of what we have in terms of our plan and building on what we've started this week and looking at ways that we can remove some of the barriers, add supports in so that students can feel really safe in their buildings, staff can feel safe. And let me just acknowledge the parents and the staff and the students. I hear you. And there are people who have felt this. All of us have felt this. As your superintendent, I feel it. Trauma is real. The residual effects of it, they're real. And we're going to work together, and we're going to make sure that not only at one district school, but all of our district schools are moving forward in a way that we all can feel really just great about what we're trying to do. And that's about being about teaching and learning, but you can't have teaching and learning at the highest level without the feeling of safety. So I'll just stop right there, but I just had to say thank you. We're right now feeling very, very just awesome the way that the community has stepped up and people often to volunteer. And those moms on a mission, there are plenty of other people just like them who wants to support. But I just tell you, I came out one day, it did my heart so good just to see the moms. They were out there. And you need to see the way our students are going to them, and they are making a difference. So thank you for this time, and I look forward to having more discussion on this. That was that topic. The vaccinations, which we're going to talk about, we're excited. We're excited that we have an opportunity for our youngest scholars to get an opportunity.
Dr. Jenkins, I'm going to ask you to pause for just a moment before we launch into the vaccination portion, just to hear from the board members around the formation of the ad hoc. Now, we're not going to make any determinations or select members of the ad hoc tonight. This is really just our first chance to speak publicly about how we want to chart this course as a board moving forward. I'm going to do a round robin, asking each board member to speak to what they would like to see from the ad hoc. And I want to start by saying we've done a safety ad hoc 2 times in the recent future. And so I think one of the big differences we want to talk about is what is safety after a global pandemic? And I think that means, an expansive relationship with our medical experts, talking about what it means to bring in child psychologists, but also what does it mean to actively engage the community around the conversation of safety from this point, right? We returned to school full-time for the first time in about, in over a year, in about 18 months this fall. And I think we want to make sure that we take what we've learned this first semester and use it to make second semester better for our young people. So I am so grateful to you all for engaging in this conversation. I have had 3 board members come forward and say that they would like to work with this ad hoc. So that's board member Maya Pearson. Thank you so much. Board member Ananda Morelli and board member Sabian Castro. I'm going to start our roundabout with our two student leaders who are here this evening. So Gordon, as the president of Student Senate, you've also come forward and said that you would lead this ad hoc and done a lot of work to kind of dream of what this could mean for our community. I would love it if we can hear from you. And then Nama, I would like to hear from you after Gordon.
Yes, thank you. And thank you all so much for being here today. First, I just want to say that, disengagement, diminishing mental health and violence has long been part of our schools for years. And it's time that we finally do something collaboratively to address it. We know that there's a lack of restorative justice. There's a lack of mental health support. There's inadequate behavioral support staff. And there's also our inadequate practices in place to best bring wellness into our schools. So you have to ask yourself, how can we go about actually addressing these issues? Well, after use SROs are going back to an institution that has been, harmfully targeting our students of color for years when they were in place. And I would also like to say that, this is something that we need the community support on. We can't just, work with just, the administration. We have to include parents. We have to include youth, and we have to include so many other of our community partners, as this is something that is within our culture and is within our schools from its roots. In order to best tackle it, we must hear from everyone's perspective, and we must do something to ensure that we aren't just running to getting more authority in place. With the use of SROs, it's just going back to a practice that has already shown to not have been effective. And getting more authority is not going to, prevent students from engaging in these negative behavior from time to come. So instead, what we need to do is focus on mental health, restorative justice, integration, and being more engaged with our scholars. Therefore, I'm asking for our Madison community to help us with this and to support us in this effort to make sure that our schools not only are safe, but also includes wellness for all of us. Thank you.
Gordon, thank you so much. Nama?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having this discussion, including Gordon and I in this conversation. And thank you, Gordon. Those were really wise words. And I'm so glad to have a leader like you. I'll just start off the discussion with our last Student Senate meeting, where we actually had the same discussion in smaller groups, which was really cool to hear from different perspectives and different students who, since we also reached out to middle schoolers and, young group students, it was cool to hear their perspective and their point of view. And I think the few key points that I want to hit and make sure that are being said in this discussion is that students need more support staff. They really need, I've heard, I think there were about like 10 students in my group who just want more teachers that can be their mental health support, just teachers that they can have as a support system besides, their core curriculum teachers. And I think that again goes back into our staffing issue that our district and our administration is facing. So we kind of had that discussion on how we would like to see more staff instead of, like policing and, the suspension and behavioral issues that are coming after these fights and these safety issues that we're having. So that was one big target point that students were discussing. And then the other was restorative justice circles. So I think a lot of schools are currently doing them in smaller spaces, but I think one issue that a lot of students are seeing is that they're very teacher-led, which creates a lot of, I don't know, not the stigma is not the right word, but it creates this kind of atmosphere that students don't feel comfortable in speaking their entire conversation and kind of hold back because they just feel it's just being controlled with this adult power that they're not given the ability to speak more. So I think having students lead these circles would provide more benefit for these restorative justice circles to work, because I think they have really good potential, but I think they're just not practiced in the best way that could prove beneficial to students. So those were two talking points that a lot of students at our last Student Senate meeting discussed. But other than that, I don't have much else to say. I think Gordon covered a lot of it, but I just wanted to make sure that their voice is being heard at a district level and getting that student input in any way I can. So thank you.
Nama and Gordon, I am living for the day I get to vote for y'all. Board member Carusi, if you can speak to the creation of the ad hoc and safety.
Sure. So I guess I have a couple comments. First of all, just the board process for creating an ad hoc committee is that the board has to vote to create an ad hoc committee. And I'm wondering what our plan and timeline is, both to take the vote on the creation of the committee and also to nominate the members of that committee. I think our policy says that the board president nominates the committee members unless the board chooses to use a different approach. So
Yeah.
One of many questions, but I'll
Thank you
start
so
there.
much for asking that question. I think one of the things I wanted to do was gauge the overall board's interest in creating this. And then, I think I would like to see the entire board work to create the composition of this committee. I think that, I as board president am happy to facilitate this, but I think we as a board need to have the conversation about safety and participate in that conversation in an ongoing way. So the timeline that we've talked about right now is having the conversation about the charge and the makeup of the ad hoc as part of either another special meeting or as part of our next instructional work group. And I'm interested in how board members would prefer, and then we would vote the ad hoc into existence at our January regular board meeting.
I got kicked out of Zoom and I got thanks for that clarification. I think the timeline, I appreciate hearing January as a vote and start this committee, because we've heard pretty clearly from East parents that they'd like to see us, they want both immediate short-term action to ensure the safety of students, both the psychological safety and the physical safety of students, and they want to see longer term work. And if we create an ad hoc in January, and presumably it's going to work for at least a couple of months, I wouldn't call that short term in this instance. I think of that as more of a medium term action that might actually have long-term implications, which is really important. If we're going to do the things that Dr. Jenkins just mentioned, we've got to take that long view. And at the same time, I actually really want to know what we're going to do in the short term to address safety concerns. We learned loud and clear tonight that parent and community involvement is absolutely central to our immediate response. And I would actually like to hear more about, outside of an ad hoc committee, what are we doing to formalize that volunteer energy and that parent presence in our buildings. We just heard from our students that staffing is an issue and it's an area where we could improve. And long-term staffing is a budgetary issue, but temporary short-term staffing, if we can find the people, and I know hiring right now is an issue because of hiring shortages everywhere, but we do have short-term funds to hire short-term people to maybe come in and help in our schools. Another thing we've heard is high quality professional development, and we do have a nonviolent crisis training that we use in MMSD, and would it make sense to fairly quickly try to implement some training for, use East as a school where we maybe train more staff in nonviolent crisis intervention and see how that works. We've received lots of good input from staff about the quality of that PD, and maybe that is a tool we could use. In terms of the actual ad hoc, it would be important to me to get a very clear vision of what the charge and purpose of that ad hoc is. Ollie, I'd like your focus on what does it mean to return after a pandemic. I would add to that we had a sexual assault at East when we all joined the board, 2.5 years ago. We've had another sexual assault recently, and we've never had an ad hoc take on that topic. Yet we're hearing loud and clear from students that gender violence and sexual harassment are serious concerns that we need to look at. And I would consider adding that to the charge of the ad hoc committee. Because we need to address this, and we've got students who for 2.5 years have been telling us what they'd like to see and what kind of changes would make a difference. We have staff who've been doing that, and it's time for us to listen and think about how we could operationalize that. Finally, I think we need to look at class sizes and staffing at East next year. I don't know how much we can actually do about increasing allocations this year, but I've heard the class sizes are way up at East, and that could be part of what we're looking at in terms of stress on kids if they have fewer opportunities to create, meaningful, trusting relationships with teachers, because those teachers are working harder because they have to care for more students. That's challenging, and it could be a reason to bring in some short-term staff. Dr. Jenkins, I appreciated your comment about what does it mean to do teaching and learning differently. And I think that could be a valuable conversation for the task force to have. I also would like to know how this task force interacts with and complements the Restorative Justice Committee, Superintendent's Advisory Committee that we put together after our last ad hoc. So understanding the relationship between those two groups, because restorative justice feels central to how we move forward after a pandemic. I think that's everything I had. So thanks.
Thank you so much for speaking to that, Chris. Board Member Vandermillen?
Yes, I'm going to be rather blunt, which I always kind of am. I think it also has this committee, if we're going to do it, and I've been very critical of it, and I'm open to that, but I think it has to have a disability component as well. When I started on this board, 2017, I asked what the safety plan was privately to Joe Vallis, and for the disabled. I was told we have to worry about how the normal people will get around before we can consider the disabled. That was the first thing that was said to me on this. 7 years ago, we dragged an East High School student with autism out of East High School for having an autistic meltdown. If we do not realize that not only is this Black and brown, but Black, brown, and disabled, and oftentimes Black, brown with disabilities, we aren't going to achieve the goals that are necessary to create meaningful change. And I think that needs to be addressed. Safety shouldn't just be for the elite. It shouldn't just be for white. It shouldn't just be for the disabled. It should be for all, and it needs to be. But that doesn't mean equity means we have to focus on those who haven't gotten the attention. Black children, brown children, disabled children, Native American children. Those four in our district get the absolute least, and that's not okay. Secondly, I want to make sure it follows open meeting laws if we do have this committee. Third, I think we need at least 1 to 2 teacher representatives in order to do that, because you can say a lot if the principal says this, the principal says that, but if they're not the ones actually teaching in the classroom, we don't know how it's going to happen, if these can actually be carried out instruction-wise or not. And I don't want to add more to our plate, to our teachers, if they can't do it. And I don't want to be able to waste the board time to create a robust program that can't be carried out. And most importantly, I want, and this is not for the board, this is for the parents. And this is my one little vent. If I have one more person, right, we are dealing with monsters, inmates, insane, or any other ableist language regarding our students, I am going to forward it to Dr. Jenkins, because our students deserve better than that.
Thank you so much, Board Member Vandermeulen. Board Member Castro?
Yeah, thank you. Say overall that every Student Success Act directs state and local education agencies to implement research and evidence-based practices. So when it comes to student safety, wellness, and well-being, we're going to take that seriously and do the most we can with the resources that we have. And I think, we can go through research and data and evidence together, but it suggests that districts take a public health approach to student behavior and wellness rather than a law and order approach. And so I think that has to undergird all of our policy and resource decisions that we have, including the ad hoc as well. In terms of the creation of the ad hoc, we just have to be really intentional about how we structure the conversations we have, because we need to have multiple conversations at once, and also acknowledge that this work will exist beyond that ad hoc. There need to be day-to-day school level conversations with our partners every single day And finally, this is a community issue. Our students, young people are not educated, do not exist in the vacuum of the school buildings. It's all hands on deck. We need everyone from the city council to the county board to any agency in the area that says they want to work and support children and young people. We need to have a shared conversation, a multi-system conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking to that, Board Member Castro. Board Member Gomez Schmidt.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Thanks. I guess I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who's reached out with questions, concerns, and suggestions about the safety in our high schools to the speakers tonight. And thanks also to the staff who have been working really diligently to connect with students and families to ensure that we have safe and welcoming learning environments for every student in our schools, in all of our schools. And it was my pleasure to attend the Student Senate meeting as the Student Senate rep from the board this week, and to have the opportunity to listen to these really good discussions among students about safety in our schools and their suggestions and really digging into the issues. So I appreciate that work of Gordon and Nama and continuing to see that through the school year. I wanted to back up a little bit and just clarify that each high school has a comprehensive safety and security plan. There's designated staff in each high school to respond to incidents and engage with students. We have staff in our schools that are trained in nonviolent crisis intervention and restorative justice. And I know we have a lot of staff on the call tonight, but just wanted to clarify, I think, for the community that we do have these plans in place. And we received recommendations last February, in February 2020, from the Safety and Security Ad Hoc that made recommendations for a restorative approach and how to meld that with what we were already doing in our high schools and in our schools. And I guess one of my questions is, when we talk about forming a new ad hoc, how are we going to continue to work with these recommendations that were made? Some of the speakers referenced them. I think there's a fair amount of work to still do with these particular recommendations. The action that we have taken have included an addition of a restorative justice position to each of the comprehensive high schools. Action also included increasing training and pay for our safety and security leads at each high school. There were also recommendations, separate from the safety and security ad hoc about staffing levels and recommended ratios for counselors, social workers, and mental health professionals. I think the missing step has been in how we've taken these ad hoc recommendations and figured out how they fit into the work of the everyday school, high schools and staff, and what's needed to adjust our system to a more restorative approach. So I just want to say that we're in the middle of doing this work. And as everybody has aptly pointed out, there's a lot of issues going on with our kids. And one of the resounding themes is just the need for increased support. Mental health supports, counselors, social workers, trusted adults in the schools, and how we adjust our system to respond to that. And so I guess as we talk about doing this and safe or an ad hoc adding in January, I guess what I would like to go back to is just, Dr. Jenkins, you mentioned doing an analysis of the whole district and looking at ways we're going to appropriately respond. So I guess my question is what is the timeline for that when we do that analysis, and how we're going to determine what resources are needed now to address what's going on?
Are you ready for your son, Chair? Is that a yes?
I'm sorry. Yes, Dr. Jenkins, if you want to respond to Chris, that works well for me.
Let me just say our analysis is ongoing. Even when we looked at this particular situation, our crisis response plans are there in the schools, and how this particular situation came about. And earlier when I talked about we have to have a collective approach with the community. And we know that things historically have to move from our community into the schools, and then it just picks up in the schools. And so we're going to continue to assess where we are and then how we're responding. So we will be working directly with some of our community people. Tonight, you saw Mr. Cooper on the call that came in, he presented tonight, but we had a meeting earlier today of looking at Mr. Cooper. We're going to do things a little bit different in terms of our schools in the community and the communities in the school. Some of the things that we have been calling, but I think we're positioned right now to do that. But as we're assessing the plans that were started several years ago, how we got to this point of the ad hoc recommendations, as you begin to mention, some of those things have already been done. And some of those things we'll have to continue to work through. I think the combination of the two committees, which you just mentioned, we have to finish the one committee's work. But I think we've evolved to a point of uplifting students' voice, uplifting staff voice, uplifting parents and the community's voices in a way that can involve the board members, everybody, every hand on deck. This is not just the board's work. It's not the superintendent's work. It's not the staff work. It's the whole community. But the way we're going to go through and we're assessing right now, have we really brought the community in ways? Yes, we have restorative justice, and we know we use our nonprofits to support us in that way, as we do have staff. We have to do some assessments of what we have internally. And while we have outstanding staff internally to deal with the restorative justice work, do we have the capacity to fully do it? And that was a part of the recommendations to increase some of those things. Do we have all of the individuals to deal with the mental health piece? Some things our staff used to be able to deal with, but they're overburdened right now. They're stressed themselves. So in some of their downtime, even having to, because of the shortages, they're having to sub. So some of them really don't get a break. And some of the students used to be able to go talk to staff during the downtime. So we're looking at how we right now, real time, this is not January, real time, bringing individuals. You see the mothers on a mission right now, moms on a mission right now, but then also other individuals in our community who have relationships already with our students in the community. How can we bring them in our schools in various ways? And we already have a plethora of discussions going on that. What we're going to probably need from the board as we accelerate this work, and when we look at like how long it takes to typically get people in from a volunteer standpoint or a hiring standpoint, we're going to have to be ready to move if we're going to address that at short time before we get here to our winter break.
Thanks for that.
For speaking to that, Dr. Jenkins. Chris Gomez-Schmidt, do you have more you'd like to add before we move on to the next board members?
Yeah, I would. Thanks, Dr. Jenkins. I appreciate that. And I think to remain, we have amazing community partners, an amazing amount of people who want to be involved. And I'm just wondering if we can somewhere in December sort of get an analysis of the resources that we have, where we may have some gaps. I'm not talking an in-depth analysis. I'm just talking a brief summary so we can really see and point out to everyone, here's what we're doing, here's what we need, and here's where we're going. And I think that would be really helpful to present briefly to the board in December sometime as an update. The other thing I just wanted to mention is I know the concerns about safety and security have turned into a discussion in the community about SROs and their removal. And so one of the things that I was looking into is what did some other school districts do that took the same steps that we did and removed their school resource officers. And a couple of those cities were St. Paul and Minneapolis. And what they did is they added extra positions to their comprehensive high schools that were called school support liaisons. And it was an extra person trained in restorative justice, trained in nonviolent crisis intervention, who could immediately respond and de-escalate situations. And so I guess I'd like to add that to the discussion as we move forward, if that's something that might be useful for our high schools. and obviously defined through the needs of our high schools and in conversation with our high school staff.
Back in December, Chairman Muldrow, and I have been in conversation with St. Paul. I've been in conversation with Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Columbus, Ohio, Milwaukee, just across the country, actually, with superintendents, because this is not a local issue. The pandemic hit the world. And as we're speaking as superintendents, we're trying to figure it out. I had a superintendent call me Sunday night about 10 o'clock. What are you doing to address these issues of this increased choices students are making? And I told them about what we're doing around restorative justice, but also talked to them about what we're doing around the whole wellness plan and what we did and what we gave off on the 22nd for our staff. This is a multi-complex situation that none of us have been in. We're going to have to lean forward together. So I will definitely bring back what others are doing, but a lot of individuals are looking to us and what we're doing here in Madison, and we don't have it all figured out. So this is why I think the evolution of the additional committee, because when we started this, we didn't anticipate, oh, we may need another committee. And I just think we're at a point where we have to say, as a district, as much as we want to move fast, we have to move careful. The social emotional and mental health standpoint, we can go pushing on our students, pushing on our staff, and find ourselves really pressing. So I think we have to be intentional. And I think all the questions, all the comments tonight, I met with a couple of parents from the East, and I really love the way they started the conversation off. They said, we're not here to be adversary. We want to help, but we are frustrated. And I said to them, I acknowledge it. Hey, I get it. You're frustrated. So am I, as your superintendent. Perhaps I shouldn't be, but I am, okay? Because I want us to be in a better place. But I think right now, us coming together in a collaborative fashion and being able to put our vulnerabilities on the table and co-create, this is the best opportunity I think I've seen in my 32 years for us to move a situation forward, because we can come together and co-create it and take care of one another's and restore the humanity and who we are. And I think that's a part of why we have responded the way we have. We are not yet acknowledged cumulative pain over the years, and we continue to do the same thing, causing harm. We can go deeper now as a school and as a community and as a community and as a school.
Thanks. Those were all my questions. And just one more comment. I just wanted to thank La Follette for the innovative work that their staff and leadership are doing to try to find innovative ways to engage with disengaged students and students in general. Like everybody has said, students across the board are struggling with the results and the longevity of this pandemic. And I think we really do have to take a serious look at what it means to provide larger scale mental health supports and general supports to our students. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Board Member Gomez-Schmidt. Board Member Morelli.
Yeah, I just want to share gratitude to the East community for addressing so many of the issues that they are facing right now, and to the folks that came to speak to us tonight. I also am just really humbled to be in this, along all of you, my colleagues, but specifically you, Gordon, and you, Nama. You have been the highlight of my weekend. I've been able to work with you, Gordon, and to be able to hear your sharp lens tonight and your hopes for your school and your commitment. I know you're multitasking right now. Your commitment to making sure that the school is a school that everyone belongs while you are attending the school is no small work. So thank you so much. Deep gratitude to both of you. And specifically, as an adult, I'm 44 years old. There's many times where the system feels like this huge machine that it's so hard to defeat. And when we have to, follow lots of protocol and process and a lot of bureaucracy to do the thing that we know it's needed. For me, sometimes I get frustrated, and I can imagine being 17, 18, 19 years old and having to be engaging in that in the ways that you both engage and also show up to lead. So thank you both for your patience, for your commitment, and for all your work that you do for our schools. There is no amount of money or thank you that can retribute everything that you all do. So thank you.
Board Member Pearson.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to first uplift what my colleagues have pretty much been saying this conversation. Also too, I just wanted to add that, in speaking with some of the parents and speaking with some of the community members, I think that we have with this ad hoc and future work, a really good opportunity to involve the community and families and parents in a way that we may not have done so in the past. And I think, and also include our students and our youth and our young people in the conversations as well, and giving them the opportunity to drive some of the work that they will be actually going to school and be part of. So I think that those are two groups or three groups of folks that I think that would need to be a part of this ad hoc. I also just want to just mention that, in talking with some of my colleagues, board colleagues across the US, I just want to mention that this is a problem that many school districts are experiencing. This is not just an isolated issue in Madison. I've spoken to many board members, East Coast, South, West Coast, and in particular, one, they said, "Hey, are you having problems with fights?" And we were just like, "Oh, are we?" And we had a long conversation of what that looks like and why it's happening. And so again, uplifting some what my colleagues in this board meeting have mentioned about just the social emotional health, but also the fact that a lot of the issues that we're seeing are not necessarily school issues or school problems of process. It really is something that is happening in our communities. And, our children are going to our schools for 8 hours of the day or more, and this is the space that they're in most of the time. And some of those issues are then spilling into our schools. And I'm not saying that just to absolve us as a district or as a board of any responsibility, because we definitely have a responsibility in it. But saying that our responsibility is a shared one with our community, as Board Vice President Castro said earlier. It's going to take not just us, it's going to take city administrators, it's going to take us community organizations and nonprofits, it's going to take, teachers and staff. It literally is all hands on deck. It's going to take parents. It really is an issue of the community. So I'm excited to see what can come from this ad hoc. I do know that we need immediate responses, but I do want to just say to the community, please give us grace. Please give our students grace. Please give our superintendent grace. This is a lot, and we're working through it the best way that we know how at the moment. And I think, taking the approach of working together makes it stronger and having solutions that we really need and really want. So I just wanted to mention that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Board Member Pearson. And I want to recognize Board Member Pearson and Principal Mickey Smith for the work that they've done at East. I've seen you at East multiple times, Maya. And I want to say to the community, I graduated from East. The people who taught me how to think for myself still work there. And they are people I love profoundly. And I think that I will do everything I can and use every tool at my disposal to make sure that we are making progress in terms of safety. And I think the ad hoc committee is a tool, not all of our tools or the tool. And so I think it's really important that we use every tool and vehicle at our disposal to promote a conversation about safety, but also to take action to support our students. And so I think it's very important that we engage in this long-term conversation. I think it's very important that we recognize that there is a desperate need for support in our schools, and be incredibly grateful for the people who are stepping up right now to make sure that our young people have what they need. I also want to highlight what Board Member Carusi said. In 2010, on October 18th, a student was sexually assaulted in a stairwell. And the response of the district was to do two things. It was to hire an extra security guard, and it was to lock that stairwell. That stairwell remains locked to this day. And you all are looking at that additional security guard. So I was hired to be there as part of supporting in response to that incident. I say that to say the portion of the conversation that Board Member Carusi spoke to isn't just 3 years ago. It isn't just 10 years ago. The conversation about sexual assault and sexual violence and sexual harassment is a ongoing phenomena and part of what has shaped our students' experiences for a very long time. And I really, really am grateful, Chris, that you brought that up as part of what we should charge this ad hoc with addressing, because I think that that's a long time coming, and it's work that needs to be done, and it's work that can be done. So thank you all so much for engaging in that conversation. Dr. Jenkins, without further ado, I would love to hear about the very good news in terms of the eligibility of so many of our students in terms of vaccination.
Most definitely. And also Chair Moultrie, I just want to thank you too for the way that you've been very intentional with the rest of the board about making sure we have staff involvement. Mike Jones with MTI and the principals, as I'm going around, they have all been involved with this. And this is throughout the district, because we know that we have, as was mentioned by Board Member Castro, we all have safety plans in our buildings. And I tell you this, these incidents, be it 1 or be it 100, we want to respond to these incidents in the appropriate way. But right now we have a number of students. I don't want to leave this conversation without saying, in our district, we have a number of amazing students. And I wanted to highlight Nama and also Gordon and say that they had their voices lifted in a national think tank that was held here in Madison, and they represented MMSD extremely well. The participants, scholars from all over the country talked about those two students just even the other day, saying, wow, what amazing students we have here. So I wanted to make sure that I say that and thank them too publicly. Well, I just tell you, as we all know, the vaccinations for our young children have been approved at this point. We're very excited. We have an event coming up at Leopold Elementary, and we have Dr. Esser, who's here because she's been championing the work for us, working with her great staff, our nurses, and just want to give a big hearts up for our nurses and all of our staff, as they've all been working hard. But our nurses, everyone knows that I'm a little biased at this point. They've been working overtime, day and night, trying to make sure we do the contact tracing, everything that they needed to do. And so thank you. Nurse Carrie is on here as well, along with Dr. Esser. So you want to tell them about the vaccinations, Dr. Esser and Nurse Carrie.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. And thank you for Dr. Jenkins, for introducing Carrie Stampley, who will take the lead on much of our conversation this evening. As Dr. Jenkins shared, the Pfizer vaccination is now approved for children ages 5 to 11. MMSD has already been hosting vaccination events in our secondary schools, and we are eager to get started in elementary. We are eager to host events at our schools, and we are also eager to partner with public health and our other community providers to get our students vaccinated as well. In fact, we learned today that public health is opening up 500 appointments a day for children ages 5 to 11, which is just great news. In our schools with our partner SSM Health, we will be vaccinating elementary students starting at Stevens and Leopold and Thoreau, and we plan to continue to offer throughout the city. To target our efforts, we are surveying elementary school families to understand both a family's plan to get their child vaccinated or not, and to gauge their interest in school-based events. Vaccination is a key mitigation strategy, and ensuring our students are vaccinated is an equity imperative. Ultimately, vaccines keep kids healthy, and vaccines tangibly keep kids in school. I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, who will share a bit more about our strategy to get our youngest MMSD scholars vaccinated.
Great, thank you, Leah. So we are just really excited to continue on this effort with our vaccinations for our students and our families. We are being really, really thoughtful about how and when we are holding these clinics. There are some barriers into when we can hold the clinics, because we're not only planning for the first dose of the vaccine, but we also have to keep in mind that 3 weeks later, we are holding a second vaccine clinic to administer the second dose. So it's 2 clinics for every opportunity that we're offering. And so with that, as you know, we have some time off here in November and December, which is making it a little bit challenging to squeeze in as many clinics as we can in between those times. So the second dose doesn't fall on a time when we're not in school. In addition to that is some of our partners that we're working with. We are required to staff, and our school nurses will be the ones administering the vaccines. And so we do have some capacity issues at that as well in our ongoing, but we are just continuing our ongoing efforts with that. It's also, I just want to say, so much more than just holding these vaccine clinics. We are often reaching out and having personal conversations with family to talk with them about their plan for vaccination, and spending the time to answer questions and talk about their concerns that they might have, and also connecting them to the right place that might be maybe more convenient for their family to get a vaccine. And we really consider this to be some of our most important work that we're doing. And it's not only our work as nurses, it's our work as a community together. And so I encourage everyone to continue those conversations with our families about their vaccination plans that they have. We have already held 4 clinics at our secondary level, and this is in partnership with Walmart. The numbers aren't as high as we had hoped for, but we really feel like every single one of these was a personal conversation that was had to really discuss through concerns or questions that they might have had in regards to the vaccine. And so our nurses are continuing to have those conversations. So we've already had clinics in our secondary schools at West, Capital East, Capital West, and a combined one at La Follette and Senate. At those 4 clinics combined, we vaccinated 27 students, and we also vaccinated 77 staff. Some of the staff, it was their first dose of vaccine that they did receive. The majority of them were our booster shots. We have Memorials and East scheduled for later this week and next week. And so again, all of these sites have a second dose clinic already scheduled, and those are in the end of November and beginning of December. And then more importantly, I guess, is where we are starting for our clinics for our 5 to 11-year-olds. And so we are partnering with SSM for this because they have the ability with our combined partnership that we can vaccinate all those age of children for starting at 5 years of age and up. So we currently have 3 schools scheduled and 1 school pending for a clinic. So for these clinics, we're responsible for staffing all of the clinics. So that's everything from greeters to vaccinators to post-vaccine monitoring. And it is just our SSM provides the pharmacist and the vaccine to drop the vaccine. We do everything else in those clinics. On advice from our legal department, we're not able to utilize volunteers to staff these clinics. We've asked and just had a couple of discussions in regards to this. So for the clinics that we have moving forward, we have Stevens, which is just going to be a clinic focusing just on 5 to 11-year-olds. We currently have about 100 students scheduled into that, and there's 5 MMSD staff supporting that school, in addition to the Stevens staff that is rotating through to help support that vaccination clinic. At Leopold, This one we are doing combined. We are vaccinating anyone older than 5 years and up. So we are also offering boosters at this. And so we have 190 people that we are approximately that we are vaccinating. About a third of those will be getting the Moderna booster. But we are doing this because we have separate space available to be able to administer the Moderna booster. We're being very thoughtful because we want to make sure that the children are getting the right dose. And so to hold a clinic this size, we want to be really thoughtful about that. So about a third of the adults we have signed up are getting the booster. This clinic is taking 24 of our MMSD staff to support this clinic. And then later that afternoon, so that is on this Saturday, the 20th, and that afternoon, then we're heading over to Thoreau. And that clinic is just going to be for our 5 to 11-year-olds. And currently we have 60 students that are signed up, and there are 15 MMSD staff that are supporting that clinic. And then hot off the press, we are hoping to secure and finalize a date for a clinic at Nuestro Mundo next week. And so that will be our fourth potential clinic that we have. And then as Leah also pointed out, we are partnering with Public Health Madison-Dane County. And so our communications team is putting out, they have 5 open slots already for this week, starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And so we'll be promoting their vaccine clinic at the Alliant Energy site, and transportation is available at that site as well. So we're going to continue this work. We know that we are in this for the long haul. It's not going to be something that we're going to do quickly. These are going to take, this is going to be held over the school year, and we're really going to be working at it and continuing to have these conversations with our families and continue to hold clinics all throughout the school year.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I think for the sake of time, I want to let board members ask any questions they have around, what it looks like to provide support around vaccination before we move into the next portion of the meeting. I'm not seeing any questions, which means you gave us an incredibly informative presentation, because this is a group that loves them some questions. Okay, Chris, thank you for never disappointing.
Had to do it, sorry. I am just curious, with the vaccination clinics, are those open to the students and families from those specific schools, or can any student from an MMSD school sign up for those?
So we started with just the schools at the feeder schools. So like at Leopold, we also targeted Cherokee Middle School. So the 6th graders that were in family units together. And then as slots weren't being filled, we had 150, I believe, open for maximum for Leopold students. Then we reached out to neighboring schools of Lincoln and Chavez and some other schools to fill all of the open positions that we had there. And so we're continuing to do that. We were not able to fill all the positions that we had at Thoreau. So we're actually ending our clinic an hour earlier because we weren't able to fill all of those spots.
The other thing to keep in mind is we're also working with our communications department. I was noticing today that we could be more clear on our website about how and when to sign up for those, especially when they expand beyond the school attendance area. Right now, we're purposely reaching out directly to our nurses because they have students who have been quarantined multiple times, and we want to be able to target specific people, but we don't want to have to end an event early. So we are going to work on that within our website as well.
Yeah, that would be great, because I know just getting access to get these vaccinations as it becomes available, I think that's really important for our families. And I really appreciate all the work that is going into this, and realize that there are some issues with running these by volunteers. But I'm just curious if there's a way we could scale this up by working with community partners that we have, in addition to, SSM, who's we're working with the vaccine. I'm just trying to creatively think outside the box to be able to scale up the availability.
Yeah, we are also, I failed to mention, we are partnering with the UW School of Nursing. So we do have nursing students that are helping us at our vaccine clinics as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for all the work on this.
If there are no further questions, I'm going to motion for us to go into closed session. I want to thank you both for that presentation and for supporting our community and helping our youngest learners get vaccinated. It's a really exciting thing to finally have the vast majority of students attending our district eligible for vaccination. And I am so grateful for the work that you all are doing to make sure that our young people have access to vaccination. I will motion to go into closed session, and then I will call for the vote via roll call. I move that the Board of Education go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute Section 19.851C for the purpose of discussing formative feedback on the superintendent performance.
Second.
I will vote aye. Ali Muldrow. Board Member Morelli.
Aye.
Board Member Vandermeulen.
Aye.
Board Member Castro.
Aye.
Board Member Pearson.
Aye.
Board Member Carusi.
Aye.
I think that is all of us. Oh, I'm sorry. Board Member Gomez Schmidt.
Aye.
I'm so sorry, Chris.
No worries.
I think that is all of us. So we will move into closed session. Barb, do you want us to log out and enter another meeting?
No, it's the same meeting. I will just stop the public part of it. So